OneNote is a free mobile app available for Android, iOS, and Windows devices. I'm going to help you get familiar with the iOS app on an Apple iPad device. Once the app is downloaded and you've logged in with an account, it's going to look something like what you see on the screen. If you need to navigate to a notebook and open a notebook that's saved in OneDrive, OneDrive for Business, or SharePoint Online, select the arrow in the upper left corner if you're not able to see the notebook panel. By doing this, all three panels will display within the application. This has a very similar interface to OneNote Online. If you have been following along and watching the previous movies of this course, notice that the left side is the notebook panel. Then we have, with whatever notebook is selected, that's the project's notebook, we have a listing of the sections. That's presentations, conference, onboarding, and so on. To the right of that, for whatever section is selected, that is the page panel where all of the pages of that section will be displayed. With whatever page is selected over to the right, that is the active page that is in view. If you need to navigate to more notebooks, you're not seeing that notebook that you need, tap more notebooks from that very left column. If you want to collapse this area, go ahead and tap anywhere on the active page, and you'll notice that the notebooks and the section panels have collapsed. We're only viewing the page panel. In the upper right corner, if you want to even hide the page panel, select the double-headed arrow. That hides the page, where there's an arrow still in the top upper left corner to bring that back into view, but that's going to bring all three panels into view. But now you know by tapping on the page, we can collapse that back down again. You have 4 different tab ribbons that you can work with: Home, Insert, Draw, and View. To make any modifications to the app settings, select the cog in the upper right corner and work through this menu. You can log out of the current account, log in with a different account. Within Edit and View, you can make changes to the default font and font size, choose to hide or view authors, and even customize autocorrect. Let's go ahead and go back out to the main settings menu. One of my favorite things to customize is in the navigation menu. There are 3 choices for where you would like new pages to be placed. When I'm writing a course like this course that you've been watching, I like to do everything within a OneNote notebook. So there's a section that is organized for this course, and then there are pages. There are pages for the chapters and then subpages for the individual movies of that chapter. When I'm writing my next topic, since I'm writing these in chronological order, I like the new page to go at the bottom of the page, or below the selected page that I'm currently working on if I'm not working on those in order. It's nice to have that flexibility of those 3 choices. Let's tap Settings in the upper left corner to go back. And now let's close out of Settings by tapping Close in the upper left corner. If you need to make selections on the page or add some notes to the page, tap where you would like to have a new typed note, and a container will appear in that area. You may also notice that after you've selected that area, you get an on-screen keyboard that appears. This is going to allow you to start to type that note, which will appear within the container of where you tapped. To hide the keyboard, if it's an on-screen keyboard, look for the keyboard key. On mine, it's in the lower right corner. Give that a tap, and that will hide the keyboard for you. If you have an existing note, like you can see we have this meeting note that is here, tap over the existing container. Now you can see the border of the container. Tap and hold over the edge of that container, and you can move the container to the desired location and then release the tap. If you make any mistakes, you have undo in the upper left corner. That's the arrow facing to the left. Let's go ahead and tap that to move that back. And if you need to redo what you've done, tap the arrow pointing to the right. Just to the left of undo and redo is the magnifying glass, and this is great to search for notes within maybe your rather expansive or large notebook. After you've taken notes for a while, you will have a lot of notes that you can look for. The default setting is to search all notebooks, but you can tap all notebooks and make a change to that to search for the current notebook, projects, or even the current section, which is meetings. And that's how you can work with the mobile version of OneNote. There are several ways to create a OneNote notebook. You can do this from OneNote Online directly, from a SharePoint document library, or from a OneDrive for Business document library. I'm going to show you how to create this from OneDrive for Business. Since I'm already logged into Office 365, I need to locate the OneDrive application. That's the blue clouds that you see here that says OneDrive within the apps area of the homepage. If you're logged into Office 365 and following along and you do not see this, look for the Office App Launcher in the upper left corner and then select OneDrive from this list. Let's go back to the homepage and select OneDrive from the apps area. OneDrive will open in a separate tab of the browser. It will take you to Files, and Files is the default location for all of your folders and files. Notice Files is selected here in the navigation panel on the left. To create a new folder or to create a new file within this area, go to the ribbon at the top and select New. Since we need to create a OneNote notebook, let's select that from the list. The dialog box that appears is indicating we need to give this notebook a name. Keep it concise. You don't want it to be too long. You don't want it to exceed the character limit for the file path, including the name of this notebook. Let's call this Small Business Projects, and then select Create. Notice that the OneDrive document library has been replaced with OneNote Online in that same tab of the browser window. And if we look at the purple area at the top, that purple bar, we get a lot of information. We can tell that we're in OneNote Online. We can see that we are in Leah's files within Small Business Projects. That's the name of the notebook. But these are hyperlinks that will take you back to where that information is within OneDrive for Business. Centered within this ribbon is the name of the notebook. And then over to the right, a place for alerts, a way to share this notebook, and again, to see who's logged into Office 365. So you're ready to get started with adding some content to this notebook. But let's say that you need to get back to where that notebook is saved. In the upper left corner, on that purple bar, these hyperlinks that you see here are called a breadcrumb trail. And if you'd like to go back to OneDrive for Business, while you could go to the Office App Launcher and select it from here, instead, a shortcut is to click over the name, and it will take you back there. Now that we're back in Files of OneDrive, notice that there are some blue bursts, what almost look like eyelashes, above and to the left of some of the newer files. So this Small Business Projects that was just created, that's an indicator to know that that is a new file. If you need to make any changes to this, you can right-click directly over the name of the file or select the three ellipses to go to the Show Actions menu, where you can rename it, move it, copy it, delete it, perform all sorts of actions with that file. And that's how you can create a new notebook in OneDrive. A OneNote notebook can be set up within a Microsoft Team channel. I'm going to show you how to create this. Let's start by focusing on the team in view. I'm logged into Office 365 and I've selected the Teams app from the Office App Launcher. What we're looking at is the graphic design team, and each team comes with a channel called General. You can add additional channels as needed. The OneNote notebook that we'd like to add is going to be added to this general channel, so you'll want to make sure you're in the channel where you want the notebook to be created. Now over to the right, if we focus on the areas that come with a new channel, you have a place to have conversations with everyone that is a part of this team, a place to store your files, and wiki for maybe those frequently asked questions, for those that are new to the team, or other types of information. The plus sign to the right of that is to add a new tab to this channel, and that's where we need to go. So let's go ahead and give that a click. Now, as we scroll through this Add a Tab area, notice that there are some of the familiar applications that are part of Microsoft Office, some that are also maybe expanded applications that are part of Office 365, and then we get into some things that are third-party types of applications, like Trello and Jira Cloud, Zenefits, Zendesk, all sorts of things, Hootsuite, that you can add and bring into that team channel. Let's go back up to the top, because what we need is OneNote. So let's go ahead and select OneNote to add a notebook. It's looking at who you're logged in as to see which notebooks do you have access to display a list of the things that you may want to include within this channel. The first thing in the list is to create a new notebook. So if the notebook doesn't exist already, this is a way for you to pin it as a tab so that everyone can start working in it within the channel. There are other locations that, as a member of these team workspaces, if you will, that may be connected to SharePoint sites and Office 365 groups, that you can bring in the notebooks from those areas. Now, in this case, you'll notice that there is one here called Graphic Design Notebook. And if we take a peek over here to the left, that matches the name of the team that we are in. When a new team is created, just like when a new SharePoint site or an Office 365 group is created, it creates some other things that are connected to that team workspace, like a OneNote notebook and a planner board. And if you have Power BI, it may create a Power BI workspace as well. So what we want to do is we want to bring in that notebook that already exists and it's already connected with the proper permissions to the graphic design team. So let's select that from the list and then select Save. We get a notification that it's setting up that new tab. Once it's done, it will take us back to the new notebook tab. If you focus towards the top where the channel tabs are, you'll see to the right of Wiki is the graphic design notebook. Just underneath this is the OneNote online application. So embedded within the Teams application, we can work on this notebook. So if you take a look above and to the left, we are still in Teams and can navigate our way around back and forth. Because this is a new notebook, no one has worked in it yet, you'll notice it says the notebook is empty. We can work with the familiar ribbons here at the top to choose some commands from Home, from Insert, from Draw, from View. Just underneath the ribbon area is an arrow pointing to the right. That's to open the navigation panel, so you can start creating and working with sections and pages. If you need a bit more real estate to work in this notebook, in the upper right corner, you will see a double-headed arrow to expand this tab. That collapses the team and channel panel, and then you can give that area a click again to bring it back if needed. You also have the choice to open this in OneNote Online, take it outside of Teams to use the full browser space for OneNote Online, or to open this in OneNote on your computer. That may be OneNote for Windows 10 if you have the Windows 10 operating system, or it may be OneNote 2016. That's how you can connect a notebook to a team channel for group note-taking collaboration. A newly created notebook automatically includes one untitled section and one untitled page. This is the same for a notebook that's created in Access in the desktop version like OneNote 2016, in the OneNote for Windows 10 application, or the OneNote mobile application. To rename the untitled section, right-click over the section and then select Rename. Then select OK. To rename a page with the page selected, look for the area in the upper left corner that has a timestamp underneath it. Just above that, place your cursor and type in a name for the page. Notice over to the left, the name that's typed in has been updated to be the name of the page within this panel. If you need to add additional sections and pages, there are a few ways that you can accomplish this. Let's get started by taking a look at the Insert ribbon. The first section on the Insert ribbon is Notebook, and within this, you can add a new section or a new page. By selecting New Section, notice that a dialog box appears to give this section a name. Enter the name Credit Cards, then select Enter, and the new section appears on the left. Another way to add sections and pages is to look at the bottom of each panel. So right now we are in the Section panel, and down here you'll see +sign Section, which gives you the same section menu. Let's go ahead and close out of that. For pages, underneath the untitled page of the Credit Card section, we can follow this panel to the bottom, a way to add a new page, which adds another untitled page to this area. Finally, a right-click method is available as well. By right-clicking over an existing section or a page, you will find the options of how you can work with these areas. It's a way to rename a section, delete a section, change the color of a section, and here you'll see that we can add a new page or a new section. Same thing exists with a page. If you right-click over a page, the options are slightly different since we are in the page area, but we do have a way to add a new page. That's a few ways to quickly organize your notebook with new sections and pages. Notebooks are great for gathering all sorts of notes and files in one place, for updating and for reference. I'm going to show you how to insert files on a notebook page in a couple of ways. Let's get started by selecting the Insert tab. Within the Insert ribbon, there's a group called Files. And in this Files area are two ways that you can display a file within a notebook page. The first is to display it as a file printout. It will appear within the page just as it would if it were printed on paper, with the margins and the layout of the content, just as it would if it were printed. A file attachment, on the other hand, notice the paperclip icon. It's going to appear as it may when it's attached in an email. Have the name of the file, as well as the icon for the associated file type. Now let's go ahead and start with File Printout. By selecting this, it's going to bring you to an open menu. I'm going to move this open menu more towards the center of the screen, make it easier for you to see. And if you need to navigate to another place where that file resides, use that left navigation to do so. The file that I'm going to insert does happen to be within the desktop area, and it's called Globe Bank Update. Notice that this file is a PDF, and the supported file types for OneNote Online are Word documents and PDFs. Now let's go ahead and select this PDF and then click Open. What you see happening on the page is a layout of how it's going to embed page by page each page of the document. I'm going to scroll back to the top so that you can see what this really looks like. Notice here is the icon indicating this is a PDF, as well as the name of the file. And I'm going to move over to the right a little and then scroll down. And what this is are pages of a PowerPoint presentation that have been converted to a PDF. So a little trick that you can use if the file that you'd like to embed within a OneNote notebook online is not a Word document or a PDF, if it can be converted to a PDF, saved as a PDF, you can get it into the file like this. Now let's move on to another page. I've got another untitled page here. And let's take a look at what does this file look like if instead it's inserted as an attachment. From the Insert ribbon, select File Attachment, takes us back to the Open menu. We'll select the same file, then select Open. And within the page where the mouse cursor was, here is what it is going to look like. So this is a file attachment. We can tell what type of file it is, the name of the file, and by selecting this file, it is going to prompt to download the file. When you're working in OneNote Online, there's not necessarily what's needed to support opening that file to work with it online. So instead, it's asking if you would like to download a local copy of that file and then open that in a supported application. So by selecting download, it's going to prompt if you'd like to open or save the file, and then you can work with that file. Here we have opened the PDF in a separate tab of the browser window. That's how you can include documents along with your associated notes in a notebook. If you have a microphone built into your device or you have an external microphone, you can capture speech-to-text notes with the Dictate tool. Start by going to the Home ribbon and then locating Dictate over here to the right. Notice there's a drop-down arrow. This allows you to choose the dictation language that you'd like to work with. Let's go ahead and set that to English, United States. By selecting the microphone above, it will activate the tool. You'll hear a bell sound, and after that bell sound, everything that is spoken will be converted to typed text and added to the page in view. Before we start this, notice where the blinking cursor is. This is where it's going to add those notes. Let's go ahead and select the microphone to activate this. Ask Renee for an update about the expo space. Period. Schedule a meeting with Judson regarding intern programs. Period. Book travel for the Data Analytics Conference. Period. Okay, let's go ahead and stop the dictation. And that's it. Now you know how to capture spoken words and have these automatically converted to typed text. If you like to record audio within a notebook, you'll be happy to know that many versions of the OneNote application offer this capability, including the online version that you see here. It just works slightly different than what you may be familiar with in the desktop version of OneNote, like OneNote 2016. And I'm going to help you understand that. To insert a recording within a notebook page, you'll need to go to the Insert tab. From this ribbon, locate Record Audio. In the previous movie, you learned about how you can work with the Dictate tool, and that's the speech-to-text conversion. This is different. This is just going to record an audio file that will be embedded within the page. Let's go ahead and select this to start the recording. Notice there's an audio recording icon that appears where the mouse cursor was positioned within the page. There's also a contextual ribbon that is appearing titled Record and Playback. Notice the red dot next to where it says audio. This, as well as the stop command being activated, indicate that we are currently recording audio. Now, a built-in microphone or an external microphone will be needed in order for this to work with your device. We have a time indicator here that we are 32 seconds into the recording. To stop the recording, select Stop from the contextual ribbon. Once it is done saving, you'll notice saving appearing in the upper right corner. It's saving and syncing this information within the notebook. Once it's done, you will have a speaker icon that says audio recording. By hovering over this icon, the tooltip indicates that this is a WAV file that is embedded within this page. Now, the contextual ribbon that we have here, Record and Playback, will stay as long as we are on the page where this file is associated. This gives us the capability to play, recording, to pause, to go back 15 seconds or forward 15 seconds within this recording. As you select another section or another page within that section, notice that that recording contextual tab disappears. When we go back to that data analytics class section, notice that it reappears for you to work with. That's how you can record within a OneNote notebook in OneNote Online. Where it differs slightly is in other versions of OneNote, you have the capability of syncing typed text that is happening within that page as you're also recording that audio. So at any time you can go back and review the typed notes at that timestamp of the recording, or vice versa. If you're reading through those typed notes, when you click within a certain area, it will take you to the timestamp of the recording that was happening at that time. Now you know how to record notes within a OneNote Online notebook. If you work in Microsoft applications like Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, you may already have discovered that there are different views for working with the files, like normal, slide sorter, and reading views. These views can help you focus on key areas or give you more space to work within the file. I'm going to show you how you can do the same thing for a OneNote notebook. Let's get started with the View ribbon. From the View ribbon, there is a Notebook Views group. The default view for a notebook is Editing View. You can change this to Reading View by selecting this, and the ribbon disappears. This just gives you more vertical space to work within your notebook. Now, to get the ribbon back from this view, go over to the right here, select Edit Notebook, then select Edit in Browser. That brings the ribbon back. The ribbon can also be collapsed while you still stay within the editing view by selecting the up arrow over here to the right to collapse it, and then double-clicking on any one of these tabs, let's go back to View again, to pin it back in place. Something else that might be helpful as it relates to views is getting more of that horizontal space back to work within your notebook. As you can see, the page that we're on, this consumer update page, has an embedded PDF, and we'd have to play with the zoom controls to zoom out and scroll vertically and horizontally to really be able to view all of the notes in the embedded document that's here. If we collapse the section and the page panels that you see here on the left, that'll give us a lot more space to see the notebook page in its entirety. To do this, let's select the 3-line menu in the upper left corner. This pulls up the notebook list. And you might be thinking, well, now we have less space because we have 3 panels that we're looking at. We're looking at the names of the notebooks, the notebook that you're within, showing the section panel, and then the page panel for those sections. Well, at the top of this notebook panel, there is a navigation pane view options command. By selecting this, you can choose what you would like to see and what you would like to hide. So this show sections and pages is what we currently have, but we also are looking at the notebook list. We could set this to show all, which will keep all 3 of these. Show only pages. Now you'll see we only have the page panel. Or if we go back to that menu again by selecting the 3 lines and then selecting navigation pane view options, we can hide all. While everything is hidden, you can still get back to those menus by selecting the arrow that you see here in the upper left corner that is pointing to the right. That's the Open Navigation Panel command, and that pulls back all of the panels. Let's go ahead and hide them once more. The same navigation options that we were just working with from the notebook panel are also available on the View ribbon. From the View ribbon, we worked with the Editing View and the Reading View. If you come all the way over here to the right, we have navigation options. It gives you the same choices. Now you know how to work with navigation options to get the best view of your notebook. All of the Microsoft Office applications, both desktop and online versions, have ways that you can hide the ribbon area to work best for you. I'm going to show you how you can customize the ribbon within OneNote Online. Let's get started with the Home ribbon. With a double click over any one of these ribbons, that could be Home, Insert, Draw, View, or Print, the ribbon will hide. With a double click again, it pins the ribbon back in place. The same thing can be done over here to the very right side. You'll see an up arrow in the lower right corner of the ribbon. Selecting this collapses it, and then a double click again will bring it back. So that's how you can hide the ribbon and show the ribbon. What if you want to auto hide the ribbon and just make it viewable when you need to make a command selection? So the same approach, you can double click on a tab, or you can give that up arrow in the lower right corner a click to hide it. And then as you need to make a command choice, let's say we want to make this Q2 projects that's selected bold, just a single click over the Home tab brings it back into view to make that command selection. And then once you click in a notebook area outside of the ribbon auto hides. Now let's go ahead and double click on that ribbon again, and we've pinned it back in place. Now you know how to hide and display the ribbon as needed. Notebooks are usually viewed on a device or in a browser like you see here. There are times, though, that you may need to print a page, a section, or even an entire notebook. And that's going to be a little bit of a different process than what you might be used to when you're printing something from a website within a browser. If we take a look at the 3 ellipses in the upper right corner of this browser, that takes us to the Settings and More menu, and then select Print. This brings up the default printer and all the settings here on the left, but let's take a close look at this print preview. Notice how we have the title of the page, we have a little bit of information, some notes, and then it's cutting off part of that first slide that is within this PDF file. And we really only have one page that we are printing, even though it says all pages within the Pages field. Instead, let's close this print menu, and within the OneNote Online application, take a look at 2 places that you can get to the in-app print capabilities. The first is the Print tab. Instead of taking you to a ribbon that has all of the print tools, it takes you to that Print menu, the dialog box that pops up as you see it here. If we look at the print preview, this looks much better. We still see the title of the page, we see the file and some notes here at the top, and now we have a page-by-page view of each slide that is part of this embedded PDF. Instead of page 1 of 1, it's page 1 of 11. So we can arrow through and take a look at each of these pages. If we need to make some adjustments, it looks like it is cutting off part of the slide. Maybe we want to change the margins a bit. Work with the fields on the left to do that. So instead of a portrait orientation, we may try landscape. And we can see how that's going to update within the print preview on the right. We can also take a look at what pages we need to print. We'll leave that to all pages for now, and if scaling is needed. The default is to shrink to fit, but you can make some manual adjustments with the percentages that you see here. Let's leave that at shrink to fit for now. For the margins, let's change this to narrow. And now as we go through the pages, you'll see that we have 15 pages. We can take a look and see if that's what we have in mind for printing each page. And once ready, select print to send it off to the printer. Let's go ahead and cancel out of this for now. The other method to get to print, instead of from the print tab as you see it here, is to go to the file tab, and from the menu that displays, select print. Then select print to the right, and it displays that print dialog box as we just worked with a moment ago. Let's go ahead and close out of this menu. And that's how you can print pages of a notebook. Sections and pages within a notebook can be moved around. As you're building a notebook and giving it structure with sections and pages, you may have something in mind that works really well, but as you start to add those notes, you realize some things need to be shifted to help you organize it better. You may also find that pages have been accidentally added to the wrong section, and instead of deleting that page and recreating it or copying the container from one page to another, I'm going to help you understand how you can work with move and copy as it relates to sections and pages. To get us started, let's right-click over this Revenue Increases by Account Type page. From the page menu, you'll see a choice here for Move Copy. Let's go ahead and select that. First thing you need to do is choose which section would you like to move or copy this page to. In this case, we're going to move it to the All Business Lines section. At the bottom of this menu, you have two choices. You can move it from the current section to this section, or you can leave it in place and make a duplicate, make a copy of it to that other section titled All Business Lines. In this case, let's move the page. Now notice the message that we get here. By moving a page to a new section, it's going to delete version and conflict information. And that's not something that we've covered yet in this course if you've been following along with the movies in the order in which they are listed. That is something we will get into in a movie as we talk about page versions. So just keep this in mind if you have a lot of information over time, especially when you're collaborating with other colleagues, that you're not going to lose any of that historical information within the versions. In this case, we're okay with it, so let's go ahead and select yes. Now you'll notice that the page no longer displays within the loan section, but when we select All Business Lines, here is the Revenue Increases by Account Type. If we right-click over a section, you'll see that we have the choice to rename, delete, give the section a color, create a new page, a new section, or copy a link to a section. We don't necessarily have a way to move or copy that section. If we want to reorder these things, though, let's go ahead and drag All Business Lines down to the bottom. And you'll see that we can reposition the order of those sections. Another way for you to move pages from one section to another is to locate the page that you'd like to move, like this consumer update that we see here within the consumer section, and left-click and drag and hover over the section you would like this to go to. You'll notice that we have the duplicate papers as the icon, the two pages. When we hover over consumer, we get a no symbol because we can't put it back into the section that it already resides in. Let's go ahead and move this to All Business Lines. We'll hover right over All Business Lines, release the left mouse button, and we have now moved that page to the All Business Lines section. Now you know how to move or copy pages to another section, as well as reordering the sections of a notebook. As you collect notes, you may have several notebooks, personal notebooks, notebooks shared with your colleagues, project-specific notebooks. And the way that you work, you might need to have multiple notebooks open at a time, or to be able to go from one notebook to another to view notes and take notes. Right now, the Small Business Projects notebook is what is in view. And if we need to switch to Leah Rodriguez's personal notebook, well, then we need to go in the upper left corner of the section and page area to expand this view to see the notebooks list. Within the notebooks list are a lot of the notebooks that reside within SharePoint for Business for Leah's account. Now let's go ahead and switch to that Leah Rodriguez notes. By selecting that notebook from the list, if you take a look at the top, we have two tabs open now. The Small Business Projects notebook that we were just in, and now what is in view is the notebook that was just selected from the notebook list. To switch over to the other notebook, let's go ahead and click right over the tab that says Small Business Projects, and we're in this notebook. We go back to Leah Rodriguez Notes by selecting that tab. To close a notebook, select the X in the upper right corner next to the tab name, and that takes us back to just the Small Business Projects notebook that we were in. To get out of this notebook listing, you can select over the three-line menu, the notebook list here, to collapse it back down. Now you know how to work with multiple notebooks within OneNote Online. As sections are created within a notebook, there is a color that is auto-assigned to the background of that section tab. Here you can see that loans is yellow, consumer is green, credit cards is a form of red, I think that is red chalk, and then all business lines is orange. These colors can be changed as needed, whether that's to group like sections, to call attention to something that is different from the other sections, and so forth. So let's go ahead and right-click over the section tab Loans, and then go to the section color menu, and over to the right are the colors that are available. Let's go ahead and make this green. There you go. Now we can see that loans is green and consumer is green. To also add credit cards as one of the same color sections, let's right-click here, go back to our section color, and select green as well. And now we can see that loans, consumer, and credit cards are all part of the same area or same section. They're part of the all business lines, but here's the all business lines section called out separately in orange. If section colors are somewhat distracting, you can remove the color of that as well by right-clicking over a section, going back to the section color menu, and then selecting none. Now notice it's not quite as obvious. It's a darker shade of gray, but it blends really well with that silver gray outline of the application frame. If we do that for all 4 of these, not as obvious, but we still know that there are sections there. All right, let's update all 4 of these. And there you go. We still have our section tabs indicating that these are different sections that we can select and go to. And that's how you can change the color of a section. If you need to find content within a notebook, you can accomplish this by working with the search tool. There's a couple of ways that you can access the search tool. If you have the section and page panels in view, just at the top of these where it says the name of the notebook, to the right of that is the magnifying glass, and this will expand the search panel. So it hides from view the section and the page panels, and now in place of that, we have a search panel. I'm going to go ahead and click the X to close this and show you the keyboard shortcut equivalent to this as well. So no matter what you have in view, if you have the notebook panel, the section, the pages, or you have all of that hidden, you can press the Control key and the E together. The Control key is to the left or the right of the space bar. While you hold that down, press the E, and that pulls up the search panel. This works in other versions of OneNote, like OneNote 2016. Now let's go ahead and search for a keyword or a phrase. What if we need to search for everything that has to do with accounts? By typing in the word account and then pressing enter, you'll see that it's highlighting what is within the page that matches this. And that's because we're only searching on this page. If instead, to expand the search to all pages within this section, go ahead and select section. And now underneath the keyword field that we just typed in, you'll see that there's a panel of results. It's finding this word account within the consumer banking services page. And if I select that from the list, it takes us right there where we can see the word account. If I select the second choice, it takes us back to that revenue increases by account type, where it has found that name within the title of this page as well. Now, if we type in something else, like the word Bethany, you will see that it finds a match within the graphics section. Go ahead and select that. And here is a container with a name in it that goes with the graphic inline within this section. To close search, select the X in the upper right corner, and it takes you back to the previous view, just as we're seeing here, where we have the section panel and the page panel. And that's how you can search for keywords within a notebook. I often get asked, what's the best way to organize a notebook so that I can find things easily? And I usually say, well, a section and page structure can help, but tags can also help you find related notes quickly. I'm going to show you how to add tags to note containers within a notebook. Let's get started by selecting a note container on the page. Let's go over here to the meeting section in the My Notes page and select this container. It may look familiar if you watched the movie on how to work with the dictate tool. These were spoken words that were then converted to typed text. Now let's make a couple of adjustments to this before we add some tags to it. Let's place each of these actionable items on a separate line. And if I'd like to add a to-do tag to the first line, place the mouse cursor to the left of that, go to the home ribbon, and locate the tags group. The tag command has a drop-down menu of several different types of tags that can be applied. By selecting to do, you'll notice that we now have a square that appears to the left of that line item. This is more than just a square though. It is a to-do tag that you can check to show the status as complete for this to-do task, and then uncheck if it is not quite complete yet. For every one of the tags that you see in this list, or at least the first 10, there's a keyboard shortcut that can be really helpful for this as well. It's the Control key, which you'll find to the left or the right of the spaceboard on your keyboard, with a number at the same time. So starting at the top, to do would be Control 1. important, keyboard shortcut Control-2, question, Control-3, until we get to the 10th item in this list. It can only associate 10. So if we'd like to use Control-1 as the keyboard shortcut for this next actionable item, hold the Control key down, press the 1 at the same time, and there you go. We can continue on whichever method works best to add a tag for each of these and then check these off as they're complete. To remove a tag from one item or from multiple items that are selected, make the selection, go back to the tag area, and then select Remove Tag. Now let's move over to the Data Analytics class section where we have the audio recording. With this container selected, let's apply a tag, and let's apply Important. While there is a way to search, you'll see a magnifying glass here next to the name of the notebook, you're able to search for keywords, and you can search within a section or a page of the notebook. But if we'd like to search for all of the notes that have specific tags with them, we will need to switch to a different OneNote application. If you have the Windows 10 operating system, you likely have the OneNote for Windows 10 application as well. You may have a desktop version like OneNote 2016. I've associated OneNote for Windows 10 as the default application for my computer, so when I select Open in OneNote just above the ribbon, it's going to open within that version. If you have something else as the default application, it's going to select that application and open the notebook there, like OneNote 2016. So here we are in OneNote for Windows 10. You'll notice next to the audio recording, we have the Important tag. On the ribbon over here to the right side of the home ribbon, while the ribbon looks slightly different, here's what the tags menu looks like. If you'd like to search for those tags, that same magnifying glass that we were looking at in the OneNote Online application is Search. By selecting this, you'll see that it recognizes the tag as Important here at the bottom. Instead of typing that in, because that would be typing in a keyword search where we're searching for that word, we'll select the tag that it understands. Here is the audio recording that it has found that has been marked with that tag. I hope this helps you understand how you can use tags across many pages and sections of a notebook and quickly find all of those related or grouped types of content and have them displayed in a panel view where you can find that information that is needed. Now you know how to work with tags in a couple of different ways in a couple of different OneNote applications. There are many types of notes you can add to a notebook. I'm going to show you how to add notes in a more visual way than you may have been doing so far. What we need to do first is switch from the Home ribbon to the Draw ribbon. The Draw ribbon gives capabilities to work with pens and highlighters to be able to mark up the pages of your notebook in many different colors and in many different thicknesses of that pen or highlighter. Let's go ahead and start by selecting a pen. Then let's select one of the color choices that appears over here to the right. Let's go with red. The thickness, I've changed the thickness prior to this, but the default would be to use the middle thickness, which is 1 millimeter. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit thicker so that this markup stands out a little bit more. Now notice that the mouse on the page has a circle, which indicates that we are in pen mode, meaning that if we left click and drag the mouse, or if you have a touch device, tap the screen and drag with a fingertip or a stylus, you're going to be marking up the page. So let me go ahead and try this. I'm going to be working with a stylus, and I'd like to indicate that we need to update this revision. So I've called attention to that with the marker, and I may write next to it, update. Now let's go ahead and move down and make some changes. This is a Word document or PDF that has been inserted into this page, and I'd like to mark this up to make some updates in the original document. So I'd like to call attention to that in a little bit more of a detail. Now for this, I may want to change the thickness and the color if I'm going to be writing so that it's a little easier to see. So let's go with blue and make that a little bit thinner. All right. So I'd like to call out that we need to update the number of cities that we have employment in. So where it says 3 cities in this paragraph, let's go ahead and call attention to that. I'm just going to strike through the 3. And then I'm going to make a little note next to this and say to change that to maybe 5. And there we go. We've got some inking on the page. If you make a mistake, you do have an eraser here to the left. So if we select that eraser, it will erase each of the pen strokes on the page. And notice that the mouse becomes an eraser icon to indicate that. Now, if we set this back to pen or maybe even highlighter, let's try out highlighter. We'll go with the color yellow. Now we can mark up this 3 to indicate that this is what needs to be changed to 5. Once you're done with digital inking on a page, you'll want to reset it back to type if you would like to be able to add typed notes in a container. And that's located over to the left side of the Draw ribbon right here. And notice once you select type, your mouse indicator goes back to that pointer arrow to make a selection or to add a new container. And that's how you can take digital ink notes in a notebook. While working in a shared notebook, there may be times that you need to see who has added those notes or who has made changes to those notes. And there is a tool here that can help you with that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the View ribbon. From the View ribbon, about in the middle of the ribbon is the group called Authors, and the tool is called Show Authors. By selecting this, to the right of the note containers, a name will display. Now we have a separate container for the name Bethany Smith, and to the right of that is the name Leah Cheryl Rodriguez, and that is the person who has added that note. As we scroll down, in another container are the photos, and these photos are stacked. And you'll see a line going around those, and that is indicating with the name here that Leah has added these as well. Now let's switch to a different section called Conferences. And within this Conferences section, to the right of this table, we have a lot more information. And row by row, it's indicating that Judson added the content or made some changes to the first row. Leah and Judson have worked on the second row. And it looks like at some point, both Leah and Judson worked on the third row, although there's nothing there at the moment. You also have a similar capability in the desktop versions of OneNote. So if you are switching from this online experience by selecting Open in OneNote to a desktop experience like OneNote for Windows 10, notice to the right of the table here, we have initials. And when you select those initials, nothing happens. But with a right click over the initials or a right click over the table that you see here, at the bottom of this menu, the initials JP are Judson Phillips, and we have a timestamp, that's the date and the time of when this content was added or modified. It will be a similar experience if you're working with a recent version of OneNote like OneNote 2016 as well. And that is how you can view content by author. As content is added to a notebook over time, there may be a need to work with page version history. You may want to just step back and see the different versions of that page from its first iteration to the most current that you're working with, or delete versions of that history. There are a couple of ways that you can enable version history. The first is to go to the View ribbon and locate page versions within the Versions group. I haven't selected this yet, and I want to call attention to this summer program page that we currently see. So notice how the page appears here within the page panel and how the content appears over here to the right. We have a table and we have a couple of lines of text underneath that. By selecting page versions, notice underneath the page here on the page panel, we now have a date for each of the versions, and to the right of that date, the name of who made changes in that version. Let's go all the way to the one here at the bottom and step back. This is version 1. We know this is version 1 because it's called out here on this yellow bar. This also gives you some instructions on how you can restore or delete this version. You'll notice that this is an empty page. This is when the page was first created. Now, as we step through to version 2, we can see the content that was added, and then to version 3, and then here to version 4. Then when we go to Summer Program here at the top, you'll see this is the most recent version that has the additional text here at the bottom. If you would like to manage one of these versions, you can also right-click over the version. Notice by right-clicking over one of these versions that we have a few choices. We can hide the versions altogether. We can restore back to this version or delete this version. Let's go ahead and restore back to this version. All right, you can see that that has now added another timestamp here to this history, and it's taking us back to this version where screened was misspelled. Let's go ahead and make a change to that. Okay, you can see how we keep adding versions to this. Now, if we want to hide this, you can either turn page versions off from the View ribbon where we enabled it, or with a right click over any one of these timestamps, we can select Hide Versions here. And that collapses all of the timestamps that we were seeing for those versions and just shows the latest version as Summer Program within the page panel. And that's how you can manage page versions. When you're attending meetings, you may be capturing those notes on paper with a pen, or you may be typing those notes into something like a Word document or maybe something else. If you've not considered to use OneNote to capture those meeting details, I think you might think about that again once you see what you can do here as it integrates with your Outlook calendar. So here we are in OneNote Online, and from the Home ribbon, if you take a peek all the way over here to the right, is Meeting Details. If this is the first time that you're selecting this, you will need to log in with your Office 365 account. That's the email address and the password that is associated. There's two different ways to log in depending on if that is a personal account or if it is a work or school account. Once you're logged in, by selecting Meeting Details, this Add Meeting Details panel will display to the right. If you are looking at this over the weekend and you don't have any meetings happening on the weekend, you're likely to see this hooray message that lets you know to enjoy your day. If you do have some upcoming meetings, you can click the drop-down arrow to see a mini-month calendar to select the day that has that meeting scheduled. Let's take a look at Monday. If we're preparing for this brand touchpoint meeting, by selecting this, you'll see over to the right, the page that was empty before now has all of the meeting details added to this. Now I'm going to go ahead and click the X to close out of this Add Meeting Details panel to give us a little more space to see the content that was added to the page. So if we scroll to the top, notice that the title of the page is the title of the meeting. Just underneath that is all of the information that it has captured from those meeting details. The date and the time that the meeting is taking place, the location of where that meeting is taking place, which happens to be a Microsoft Teams meeting that's taking place in the marketing team in the general channel. We also have a link back to the original Outlook item if we need to go there, and then any of the details on how we will be attending that meeting. As well, we have a list of participants of who will be participating in that meeting, and then a place to start capturing those actionable items. And that is how you can add meeting details to a page within your notebook. And if this is a shared notebook, giving everyone that has access to this notebook the capabilities to see these meeting notes, add their notes to it, and those that have missed the meeting